Mining. It's one of Minecraft's most important elements. In fact, it's so important that it makes up half of the game's name. It's something you have to do at one stage or another when starting a Minecraft world, as without mining, you would never be able to progress. However, there is not one set way to mine. You see, Minecraft is a sandbox game, meaning theoretically it is possible to destroy every single block in the world through mining. Minecraft doesn't give you any guides or information about how to mine, like how it gives player information on how to craft. This means that newer players had to figure out and discover how to mine and gather resources for themselves. But this is what's most interesting. If you go all the way back to alpha and beta versions of the game, way back in 2010 and 2011, you'll find that the mining strategies these players use are wildly different from the mining strategies players use today. There are countless videos which display the disparity in mining, and considering there has never been a proper or official way to mine, that begs the question, why has mining in Minecraft changed and evolved so much, and how? Mining is arguably Minecraft's most overlooked element, and today we're going to do a deep dive into it. So let's get started. To start our journey, we need to talk about when mining was first implemented and added, as it wasn't in the first classic releases of the game. You see, in Minecraft classic versions, there was no survival mode. You basically were in a slightly modified version of creative where you could insta-break blocks. However, that would begin to change when on the 14th of June 2009, Notch made a post in his Tumblr blog discussing his vision for breaking blocks in survival mode. I'll leave a link to the post in the description, but basically what he says is that you start with a pickaxe in your inventory when you generate a world, and clicking on a tile will destroy it, but different tiles will take longer to destroy, with him explicitly giving the example that stone will be tougher than dirt. He also went on to say that most blocks will release resources when destroyed, but at the time this was just a vision, as while coal ore, iron ore and gold ore were implemented in classic version 0.0.14a, mining wasn't first added into the game until September 1st, 2009, almost 4 months after Notch's blog post, in a very unknown version of the game called Minecraft Survival Tests. Minecraft Survival Tests are a version of classic with survival elements implemented, one of those elements including the ability to break blocks and collect them like in survival mode. The first ever survival test, called 0.24 survival test, is permanently missing. That version has been lost to time, but fortunately the third version of the survival test is available to play, which I believe is the version I'm playing on now. As you can see by the changelog for the very first survival test, the ability to left click to mine was added, and upon destroying blocks you could get resources. But the thing is, there were no tools in this version yet. You use your bare fist to destroy everything, including stone. And instead of dropping a single block or item like we have today, certain blocks drop different resources or even more than one. Mining dirt would give you 1 dirt, a feature which still hasn't changed, but mining an oak log from a tree would give you anywhere between 3 and 5 oak planks. There were no crafting benches back then, so you mined stone with your fist, which would give you 1 cobble. You could also find iron ore, gold ore, which gave players 1 to 3 blocks of iron and 1 to 3 blocks of gold when mined respectively. But that was about it. There weren't really any other blocks yet. Survival test development continued alongside classic development up until Minecraft entered in-dev and inf-dev releases. The third in-dev version was the first to default the game mode to survival, and on January the 11th, 2010, pickaxes and axes were added to the game for the first time, being used to gather stone 4 times faster than by hand and wood 4 times faster than by hand. And as a side note, holding them looks pretty funny. Their functionality was improved throughout future versions of in-dev, and then in inf-dev, when Minecraft worlds were made infinite, ore started generating underground in veins. Development would continue into alpha, where multiple ores including diamonds could be found underground, and the game would begin looking more and more like the Minecraft we have today, changing forever. But before we get into that, consider subscribing. It really helps me out. No pressure though. Anyways, with Minecraft finally entering alpha, the game began getting a lot of attention, and now with survival finally being the main focus of the game, it became important to acquire resources as efficiently and as carefully as possible. You see, caves did exist in this version of the game, but they were far more dangerous. Back then you couldn't sprint, meaning getting away from mobs wasn't easy. Lack of enchanted tools and armor also meant that you weren't as protected, and some old alpha versions of the game didn't have a brightness setting, so it was incredibly dark in caves. Basically what I'm saying is that caves were scary, they weren't safe, and they were in no way the most efficient or reliable method of gathering resources. So instead, players would mine, but they would mine in different ways than what we would do today. One of the earliest Minecraft Let's Plays is from a channel called DavidAngel64, also known as X, who uploaded the famous X's Adventures in Minecraft, displaying some early mining strategies. Back then, one of the ways he tended to mine for resources was by digging a somewhat large hole, often between 7 and 10 blocks wide. This hole would start relatively high up, basically at land level, and that would go all the way down to bedrock. These types of mines were basically just big holes, and were the most common method of mining back in alpha. Now, you can probably tell that this method of mining is very inefficient. As we all know, diamonds don't start generating until Y level 16 or lower, and aren't most common until even lower at Y level 5 to 12. And the same goes for other valuable ores such as gold, redstone, and even lapis, which don't generate until under Y level 30 at best. This means that for majority of the mine, you're basically only going to find iron ore and coal ore at best. And then when you finally do get to a low enough Y level where rare ores can be found, your chances of finding them are so much more slim, as you're only mining out a small portion of a chunk. Math can explain just how inefficient this method of mining is. In Minecraft, diamond ore attempts to generate 1 time per chunk in veins of 1 to 10 ore from a Y level of 1 to 15. This means that on average there is a 3.7, or if you round up to 4, diamond ore in a single chunk, which mind you is 16 by 16 blocks. If you mined out a whole chunk, which as I mentioned is 16 by 16 blocks, from ground level to bedrock level, on average you would only find 3 to 4 diamond ores. So then, if you're only mining 7 by 7 blocks, then it's likely that you won't find any. These mining techniques were highly inefficient and would often take upwards of an hour for little to no diamonds and limited amounts of other resources. Nevertheless, their popularity wasn't hindered, as most players didn't know how inefficient they were. I myself built multiple of these type of hole mines in my own single player world back in 2011. But things weren't all bad, as while this type of mining was relatively slow, as we enter Minecraft beta in early 2011, players began to innovate and figure out some more efficient methods of hole mining. An old video I found by a YouTube user named The Shadow Cave demonstrates a more effective method of hole mining. Instead of mining every single block in the hole, he would leave blocks and not mine them, forming a trench and increasing efficiency, as you didn't have to mine nearly as many blocks. These blocks which were left unmined were exposed from one angle or another, so there is no chance they could hide any rare ores behind them. Therefore, mining these blocks would just be a waste of time. Using this method, you didn't have to mine over half the blocks in the chunk, increasing efficiency by at least 50%. However, this technique was still highly inefficient, still suffering from the same issues the original hole mine had, which is that players were mining at the wrong Y level. As time progressed, players began to wisen up though. Players began mining at low Y levels instead of mining down from high Y levels. What they would do is just create a staircase to Y level 12 for example, and then just mine out a massive underground hole and keep going until they found what they were looking for or got bored. This was way more efficient than the previous hole mines, but it also suffered from a similar issue, which is that they were mining way too many blocks than necessary. Instead of just mining out every block underground, if they applied that similar trench format we saw in the Shadow Caves video, they would save so much more time. A video I found in April of 2011 during Minecraft beta version 1.5 displayed one of the first ever forms of a proper trench mine, which would later become known as a strip mine. OrCorp, who uploaded the video, shows us how he mines multiple long straight 1x2 areas rather than mining out a whole underground area. And this is really the basis of popular strip mines which would come to be. However, some notable differences are that he doesn't mine left or right every few blocks as you are meant to, as he instead creates these long straight strip mines with only 2 block gaps between them. Anyways, as we continue into later beta versions, strip mining and other variants of it became increasingly more common. With the full release of Minecraft in late 2011, enchantments for tools such as efficiency, fortune, and unbreaking were added, making mining much faster. You could rip through stone like no tomorrow with efficiency, and unbreaking allowed your pickaxe to last far longer. The addition of fortune also meant that you would get more bang for your buck, allowing you to potentially get 4 diamonds from a single ore. Sprinting was also added, meaning that it was easier to escape mobs and move around in caves. Alongside enchantments for tools, the addition of added protection enchantments for armor and stronger enchantments for swords meant that cave exploring became a viable method of gathering resources, as it was no longer as dangerous and using fortune could maximize your rewards. Players still mined in strips however, and it became common knowledge that if you mine at Y level 11, then lava wouldn't flood your mine, making it much more safe and convenient. Then, a few months later, towards the end of 2012, Minecraft version 1.4.2 was released, adding beacons for the first time. The addition of beacons enabled players to have access to Haste 1 and 2, notably Haste 2 giving you the ability to insta-mine stone with an Efficiency 5 pickaxe. This greatly increased the speed at which players could mine. But due to the beacon only have a certain radius of effect, if you strip mine too far, you would quickly go out of its radius and lose its effect, so players began mining out large areas underground within the beacon radius when they wanted to gather resources. From late 2012 to late 2013, there were many different strategies for mining, and none were widely agreed upon at the time. You could strip mine, explore caves, enchant tools, or whatever. But with the release of Minecraft version 1.7.2 in October of 2013, cave generation was changed, making them less dense and interconnected. This means that caves contained less ores on average and weren't as large. They became quite inefficient for finding rarer ores such as diamond, as they were very luck based, and strip mining became the favoured method of mining. And as the game kept developing and becoming more and more popular, strip mining was refined and improved. Players figured out that the best way to strip mine was to mine at Y level 11 and dig out left and right every 3 or 4 blocks, therefore covering the most area while also mining the least amount of blocks as possible. And for the longest time this remained the most efficient way to mine, until 2016 when Elytras were added to the game. In early 2016, with the release of Minecraft version 1.9, Elytras were first added to the game. What Elytras did is reduce your hitbox height, as flying with an Elytra puts you into a sort of prone state. If timed correctly, you can fly or jump into 1 block tall gaps, which allows you to walk under them as if your hitbox is smaller. Players discovered that this could be used for mining. You see, when you mine in a normal strip mine, which is 2 blocks tall, for every 1 block you mine, another 4 become visible. But when mining in a 1 block tall strip mine, for every 1 block you mine, another 5 become visible, an efficiency increase of roughly 25%. When mining in 1 block tall strip mines, you also use less pickaxe durability, and don't need to light up the strip mine with torches, as no mobs will spawn in these small gaps. However, the main issue with this technique is that it can't be used early game, as to get an Elytra you have to go to the end and kill the Ender Dragon first. Fortunately, this issue was solved with the release of Minecraft version 1.13 in 2018. The swimming animation changed to somewhat similar to the Elytra animation, whereby you are only 1 block tall when swimming. Utilizing this swimming method, you could swim into 1 block tall areas, so basically you could now use this technique early game, and it became known as dive mining. Then in early 2019, with the release of Minecraft version 1.14, full support for crawling was now added, and it was even easier to create dive mines using trapdoors to put yourself into crawl mode. Dive or crawl mining is currently the most efficient way to strip mine, and even though traditional strip mines are likely more popular, the use of dive mines continues to be highly effective. Now, all these techniques we've talked about today require manual mining and are the most common and widely utilized methods. But one automatic and not so common method, which is much more efficient but utilized far less, is TNT mining or quarries. You see, in 1.14, TNT was changed so that it would drop every single block it blew up, making TNT finally more useful for actually gathering resources rather than just destroying terrain. In addition, TNT duplication glitches have been discovered, allowing you to create flying TNT bombers which can run automatically while you AFK. Popular tech servers such as Sidecraft have actually been using TNT to mine since around 2017, and even though they are still playing version 1.12, these quarries are still very efficient. In fact, they're currently the fastest way to find diamonds in the game. Now once again, the problem with TNT mining and quarries is that they require a lot of resources and are not early game designs. They're also quite tricky to set up, and new players would likely struggle to build them. But nevertheless, TNT mining has an insane amount of potential, far higher than any method of strip mining, and it will likely be developed further and further into the future, to the point where it may become mainstream or even early game. But anyways, that's the evolution of mining so far. From digging out large areas all the way down to bedrock in alpha, to creating tiny holes to crawl in, mining has come a long way over Minecraft's decade-long existence. However, I believe there is going to be one more evolution in the near future. You see, with the recently announced 1.17 Caves and Cliffs update, cave generation and such is going to drastically change. This could impact strip mining and could even potentially make it so exploring caves may become the fastest method of mining and gathering resources again. Or who knows, there may even be other crazy methods of mining which will be discovered. Whatever it will be, I'm certain that we haven't reached the end of Minecraft's mining evolution, and big game-changing methods will be discovered. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. Thank you all so much for watching.